Good afternoon, Owen. Um, Obviously, we saw, this 4-year plan for you to become the best one-day side in the world, and it was planned like a military operation. Is the same sort of plan in place as regards getting to the top in T20 cricket? And if so, where are you at on that progression at the moment?
Yeah, I think the planning and strategy is progressing nicely towards next year's World Cup. Obviously, this year being postponed in the manner that it has been, I think has suited everybody because nobody was playing cricket around the world. So it allows teams an extra 12 months to still go through the process that they would do in the lead into to any other World Cup. I think the benefit we've had over the last, probably the last 2 years in particular with our T20 cricket is that because it's been sitting on the back seat behind 50 over cricket, it's allowed us to build a squad of players, or at least look at some players to try and create some strength and depth, and performance hasn't been sacrificed at all. I think our win to loss ratios early 70% over the last 2 and a bit years. And to put that in context, in the 2 years in the lead up to the World Cup, 50 over World Cup, our win-loss strategy or percentage rate was in the same sort of bracket. So it's a nice place to be, but also an extra 12 months to continue to learn more and about our squad.
And you talk about the squad. Obviously, you've got the likes of Joss and Jofra and Mark Wood coming back into it this week. In terms of having that experience, 3 World Cup winners, but also the characters they are coming into the bubble, just talk about how much that means to you as a captain.
Oh, it means a huge amount. I think for the first time this summer, we're seeing a majority of our best team on the park, and that's great. I mean, bar injury and absent players, which is only a couple, we're at full strength, and I think that's a nice place to be every now and then. I don't think we have to go out and pick our best 11 every series that we play, because we can't put all our eggs in one basket. We need 16 or 17 players in the lead into World Cup selection that are all vying for a position in the best 15. We found that in the lead into the 50 over World Cup that was the best position to be in.
And just finally, one more from me. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Joe's omission from the T20 squad. Does he still have a future in England colours from a T20 point of view? And have you had that conversation with him?
Yeah, we have. We've spoken to Joe. He certainly does have a future. And the conversation was surrounding Joe not getting in the best 11 at the moment, but also we didn't want to carry him around and not play any cricket. Joe wants to play T20 cricket and put his best case forward, particularly when he doesn't have a lot of opportunity to go back to Yorkshire and play T20 cricket. We felt that this was a really good opportunity to do that.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. We'll go with Sam Ellard from Talk Sport, please.
Hi, Owen. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. Owen, this might not be an Ashes series or a World Cup match, but is facing Australia always that extra bit special? Is Australia the team that England love to beat the most?
Yeah, without doubt. Absolutely. I think for obvious reasons. When you grow up watching Ashes cricket or any game against Australia, it's always built up and seen as a pinnacle of anybody's career. And I think regardless of the format that you play, there is always a bit more on the line when you play against Australia. I think given the fact as well that Australia are normally one of the best sides in the world, I think that's an added caveat to try and pitch yourself against the best side in the world. So coming out of it, if you do play well and have a good day out or beat them, there's always a huge confidence booster with that.
We spoke a lot to Joe Root about the headaches he has in the test team by having so many great bowling options. Are you facing the same sort of headaches when it comes to the batting? We mentioned that there's no Joe Root in this squad. It's such a strong squad already, and there's no Stokes. Roy's got an injury. Are these causing you difficult decisions? Is it, as a captain, I'm sure you want to have the best players available, but also how tough can it be having to leave out so many great players?
Yeah, it never gets easy leaving really good players out. We've had to do it for a long time now, and sort of have proven it's proven it difficult task to try and satisfy everybody. But I think with the bigger picture down the line, there are periods that we go through where guys will have opportunity to either bat in their normal position or have an opportunity elsewhere. I think looking at this series specifically, there will be more opportunities because of those absentees. I think one of the challenges that we do have down the line is trying to find a middle to lower order batter that can come in and play in an aggressive manner from ball one. It's very difficult to predict who that might be because very few players do it at county level. Everybody bats in the top four, if not they open. And at the moment we seem to have an abundance of great, talented players who all either open the batting or bat three.
Thank you, Eoin.
Okay, we'll go with John Etheridge and then Lawrence Booth, please.
Just on the batting, will Joss continue as T20 opener?
Yes, he will for the moment, Johnny will.
Okay, so I mean, there's you're sort of plenty of options there. Can you say, who he'll open with tomorrow? Can you say?
Yeah, he'll open with Johnny tomorrow. And like I've said before, we'll continue with this until we feel the need that, it's not working. We feel that Jason, Johnny and Joss are three of our greatest ever white ball players. They're unbelievable strikers of a ball. They're batsmen that you do not want to bowl against. So if one out of the three of them gets going past the first 6 overs of the power play and into those middle overs, it puts us in a really strong position for the last 14.
So if Jason was fit, it would be him and Joss opening and Johnny at 3.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jason's not here. So who would bat 3? And let Malan or Banton?
John, do you want me to go through the first 11 for you?
Well, that would be very handy for you.
Yeah, no, it's just, you can save your breath. I'm not.
Okay, but I mean, but you can confirm who's going to open, but you're not able to say who's going to bat 3.
No.
Yeah. Okay, but that was interesting. But Joss, because you had more talked about needing somebody who can come in mid-order and be aggressive. This is obviously what Joss can do, but you see him, for the time being at least, as the opener.
Yeah, I think when he's so good, like we always pose the question of how do we get the best out of all of our players. But when you talk about those 3 guys specifically, it's more obvious with Johnny and Jason batting at the top of the order. But trying to get the best out of Joss, at the moment, we feel the more balls he faces, the more influence he can have in the game. But I think if it gets to fine-tuning things down the line and that hasn't necessarily worked out, we can always fall back on Joss in the middle order.
Okay, thanks, Jess.
Thanks, John.
Lawrence, please.
Hi, Eoin. I just wondered what you felt you learned from the Pakistan series.
I think the 2 games that we played, guys can continue to impress with opportunity. There was a lot of opportunity on show. Tom Banton impressed, and Dawid and Malan continue to impress. And I think the bowling unit as a whole don't really like reflecting too critically, particularly on the first game. But the progression from the first to the second game was quite dramatic, which was great. So it proves that guys were a little bit rusty and potentially off their game. So that could potentially continue throughout this series. As I mentioned before, I think batters are way ahead of bowlers at the moment, just simply because batters can hit so many balls without risking injury. Whereas bowlers take a little bit more time to get back into game time and react to that.
Can I just ask about Moeen as well? It was obviously important for not just him, but for the team that he came good. And he made a comment afterwards that he felt he'd been coasting a bit in the games before that. Was that something you noticed? I mean, were you surprised to hear your vice-captain use a phrase like that?
Yeah, surprised to hear. I mean, I've spoken to him a little bit about that. And I think sometimes in your career, you can. If there's no direct goal or direct drive in what you're trying to do, your mind is not challenged, your body is not challenged. So it's always important to have that. And it might be not a team goal that motivates you, it might be an individual goal for different guys, but it's really important to have that.
Do you feel he's got that out of his system now?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
Thanks.
Cheers, Lawrence. Dean Wilson and then Andrew Miller, please.
Hi, Eoin. It seems slightly strange to say because I know you've talked about it a lot, but for someone like Jofra Archer, I think this will be, if he plays, I assume he's playing tomorrow, it'll be his first white ball delivery for England since that run out at Lords. How excited are you about having him back in your team after all this time, which has been a while? And what are you expecting from him? Obviously, he's delivered various things over the last few months in the test team, but for you as a white ball captain?
Yeah, it's great to have him back. He's obviously one of our match winners, and to have a guy another one in your team is great. It's a huge asset, or he's a huge asset. I think we need to manage the level of expectation of what he produces throughout the series. It's obviously he has played a lot during the summer, and is very excited about playing in the series. But like we saw at Old Trafford in the first game, guys take a little bit of time to get into their rhythm. So, I mean, level of expectation naturally will be high, but within reason.
And can I just also ask, from your point of view, who do you think are the favourites for this game, or for this series, I should say? Bearing in mind Australia are the number one side, but you're at home, pretty decent side. I mean, it's pretty close.
Yeah, I think it probably Australia, because they have the strongest squad here. So we'll probably be putting out their best 11. So if you're to go on that, I'd say they're probably just favourites.
Yeah. And do you think the fact that there's no crowd helps them as well?
No, I don't think it bothers them, to be honest. Some guys really enjoy it, playing away from home and sort of the touring aspect, but I don't think it bothers anybody.
Okay, cheers.
Andrew Miller, please, and we'll finish with Nick Holt.
Hi, Eoin. Just one thing about, I suppose one of the aspects that England struggled with a little bit in T20 cricket of late is getting wickets in the power play. And I imagine Jofra may be one big factor in that. But David Willey was a guy who did seem to get wickets in that position. He's obviously been cut from both squads. I just wondered what he hasn't done right in his opportunities, and I guess who else alongside Jofra is your go-to for that start of the innings.
Yeah, you're right. It's an area that we're trying to improve on. Dave has been one of our best power play bowlers just because he has that ability of taking wickets. I've had this conversation with David himself. He was supposed to be in this squad as a reserve, but chose to go back and play for Yorkshire. We sort of agreed that it was better that he's playing when he's bowling so well. And his omission from the games, the Pakistan 2 T20s, weren't performance-based. We know exactly what David can do. We wanted to look at Saqib Mahmood as much as we could to try and find out more about him and give him more opportunity to see where his role might fit in. But David certainly comes into contention if you're talking about your strongest squad. I think ideally we'd like to have a left arm option down the line preparing for the World Cup campaign.
So does that mean, I mean, Sam Curran's obviously your left arm in this aspect. I suppose he's a useful guy to have in that starting fresh in the middle order, the batting as well. I mean, he looks like a key plank, even though he's not played a lot of T20 cricket yet.
Yeah, he's more in the all-rounder role at the moment as opposed to the out-and-out bowler or bowling option. I mean, when Ben's not here, he leaves a big hole and an issue that we need to resolve in selection when he's missed games in the past. Obviously, we have done well, but it's still trying to get the balance of the team right can be difficult. So Sam falls into that category as well.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll finish with Nick.
Azim Rafiq's come out with some comments this morning about the racism, the alleged racism that he experienced at Yorkshire. And he's not the first cricketer to say such things this summer. Michael Carberry and others have said such things. How do you feel when you hear and read those stories? And do you think English cricket has an issue with diversity?
Yeah, when I hear the stories, I'm surprised to start with. But also in light of these stories coming out, the ECB has been active in trying to rectify and become, I suppose, more diverse and create equal opportunity for everybody. I think given our squad, the squad of players that we have, and the guys of different cultures, backgrounds, different races, I think the diverse nature of it really does epitomise where English cricket is at. I think travelling around during last year's World Cup and going to 10 different grounds up and down the country and watching our supporters flood in of all different races, all following England, was great. It made us all feel extremely proud. And it was one of the noted things that we talk about when we watched the final back. And the camera pans to the crowd, the people in England shirts are not all white. They're of different races. And for us, as a team, I think that's quite a thing that we can be proud of. I think an area that we can get better is actually telling people our story more, being comfortable to talk about growing up in a different country or growing up in a different environment within this country and our journey to where we are today. Because there's not one player that's had an easy ride throughout this. It's very difficult to get into an England cricket change room or an England cricket shirt. But even more so, coming from a diverse background, I think it creates different challenges. And I think our display throughout the Ireland series and our continued ambition to try and create more sustainable awareness around our fight against racism and the creation of equal opportunity and the equality within the sport is an important to drive that forward, because it shouldn't exist in society. There's no place for it in society. And when people talk about it, they should feel comfortable talking about it and coming out. And we want everybody to know that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you everyone. Cheers.
Thank you guys.